Hello and welcome. What we're going to be looking at today is how to manage simple content, aka pages, aka navigation, whatever you want to call it. These are the foundational pieces of your website. So this is the actual content that people can look at to get more information about your organization. And where we're going to start off with today is upon logging into MembersVillage, you'll be brought into your dashboard. From here, you'll want to head over to the content section under pages. Now, we're going to split this tutorial into three main sections. I'm going to show you how to create a top level page, how to then move that page to become a sub-level page, and then what I'm going to show you is how to make a page be only accessible to people within a certain group. So for example, your members. The first place we're going to start off with is the dashboard of the page administration section. And on the left hand side, you'll see a bunch of pages that already exist. Now, your pages may be different, they may be called something else. This isn't something that is static, it is completely dependent upon the client. However, a lot of the functionality, of course, is the same. So upon clicking with your left-hand mouse once on the page itself, what we simply do is we highlight that page, and on the right-hand side of that, we get a little bit of a breakdown of traffic to the page itself. So we get a week-over-week comparison. Now, for our training purposes, there isn't a lot of traffic coming to this page, and that's because this website isn't actually live at this time. However, over time, you'll see numbers here populate nicely, and you'll be able to do sort of a little bit of a trend check over the last 2 weeks that are happening. We will have a tutorial on how to gain a little bit more insights and get trends and visitors through a much larger time frame. However, for today's purposes, just know that you can do a quick snapshot of what's going on when clicking on a page. What you can also do is copy the link to the page itself. And as an administrator, what you also have the ability to do is preview the page using a different device. So I am using a desktop here, so I've got quite a large screen. If I wanted to preview this about page on a mobile device, I would simply click mobile, and then I get to see what my page will look like on a mobile device. And it is fully usable, it is fully functional, it is your website. We just basically adjust it to the size of the device. And as an administrator, you can also change the device on the fly as you're looking at the page itself. So for example, I could go from mobile to tablet here. Now I'm just going to shut this down because we don't need it. And now comes the fun part. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a top level page. So I'm going to simply click on add page, and this brings me to a page creation or edit screen. The difference being is that when we're editing a page, obviously all the content is pre-filled for us with the existing data. I am going to skip over the access group because that is the last item I'm going to cover. However, I will now start filling out the page. So again, depending on your configuration and your setup, your screen may look a little bit different, and it may have different fields as well. So for example, caption is standard. However, you may not be running your site in multiple languages. So if you're only running your website in English, you won't have the opportunity to put in French translations for these items. And the way that translations work within MembersVillage are that the fields that actually need translation, the system will identify for you. So for example, in this case, there's only a couple of fields that actually have to be translated. Other than that, you're just using a single selection or a single fill-in. The other thing that I would like to point out is that you do not have to specify a translation, even though you may have a second language in use. What the system will do in that situation is just fall back on the English translations. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and create a page called Remy Rocks. And as I'm creating my page, the first thing that I'm going to do is fill in the caption. And what the caption is the actual item or the actual text that that MembersVillage will use for populating your navigation. So those short labels are what is going to be used here in your navigation on the left-hand side, or in the top bar, or in the drop down. Wherever your navigation is, it is the caption that is being used. Subpage of, I'm going to leave this blank because that'll be a secondary item I'm going to show you how to do. Again, cover image, it may be something that is configured for you or not. In our case, I'm just going to skip it. And then I'm going to put a title. Now, because the title is not being used in the navigation, I can actually use a much longer text. So this is the actual text of, or the title of the page. And again, it's not affecting the navigation at all. So we can get really quite lengthy here. I'm just going to repeat this text for us here. What I now also have just opportunity to do is select from a bunch of templates that may be available to me. And again, depending on your configuration, you may have a different set, you may not. However, what is pretty standard is the content, the homepage, and a wide template. The reference guide may or may not be there for you. However, the content is similar to this page where we have the navigation on the left-hand side and the content on the right-hand side. The homepage is a template which would be used on the homepage, so that pretty much is a singular use. And the wide template is a template which has no navigation on the left-hand side, meaning the content would span 100% of the content space. And for our purposes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the content template. In navigation, and clicking and switching this to yes simply means that once I'm done creating my page, this page or the option to access this page will appear somewhere in the navigation for me. So because I'm creating a top level page right now, it'll show up here in this brown bar. If I was creating a sub page and I put it under about, it would show up in the sub navigation here. So I will definitely want to activate it. And I also want to make it visible. So visible just means that the page is active and it is visible to the public or to a particular group. The page type, while there is 4 types in here, we will be reducing this over time. So the only 2 items I want to focus on is the page and the link. The page is a page. There's nothing else special about it. It's just a simple page for the website to know about. And the link would be something where I can actually specify a link. If I want to create a navigation item and it actually goes outside of my website, I would be then able to put in a link. However, today I'm going to be creating a page. And the next thing you'll notice is the actual editor of the page content. Now, I'm not going to run through every single option and feature within the editor itself. I'm just going to give you a run through of the most basic functionality or the functionality that might be most time consuming to figure out on your own. So the best practices for creating a page is that you should definitely give it a heading. And I will show you how not only to type out the heading, but also how to format it properly. And then I just simply have a paragraph. So now that I've actually put in text that I want to turn into a heading, what I do is just put my cursor on that line and I go under formats, headers, and you'll have H1 to H4 that you can then transform that line into. The way that the web works and that web formats work best is that you always start off with your heading 1, and then your H2 would be your subheading of H1, and your H3 would be a heading of H2, and so forth. So basically, you might want to think about this as a, similar to a chapter scenario in books where you can have chapter 1, and then chapter 1.1. Similar, very much similar here. And again, since I'm creating a very simple page, I'm just going to select H1 because that is the only heading that I'm going to have, and that is the essential heading anyway on a page. Now, again, I'm not going to show you a rundown of all of the features on this editor. The best thing I can recommend is just come into the editor, create a page for yourself, and then go nuts, trying all the different permutations of what you can do with the editor itself. The one thing I definitely recommend is creating your content within the editor itself because it will create clean markup. And that's the underlying code of the page itself that you don't really get to see. But using the editor, you'll get clean HTML, which means it will be, accessible to a wide variety of devices, search engines, and just plainly accessible through different mediums. So for example, a screen reader will be able to understand your content if it's formatted through the editor versus, for example, copying in content from Word, which might use its own markup or something like that. We always recommend using the editor formatting tools that are here and for doing your formatting here. Some of the more interesting or complex operations I will show you right now is, for example, how to insert an image. And this is going to be an image that I haven't uploaded into the platform, so it is something that I just want to grab off my desktop and have the system upload for me. So I'm just going to click on this insert edit image icon here. And while there are already categories and images available that have been uploaded, for example, underneath website images, this is going to be a new image that I want to upload. So image here, it's under uncategorized because there's no category selected. And what I want to do is I want to upload a new image. So I'm just going to select upload, and I'm just going to go ahead and upload this softball image I have here. So I'm going to go softball image. And at this point, I'm ready to upload. So I just simply click on insert. And my image has been uploaded, and it's been inserted also into my content. Now, this image itself is a little bit larger, and what I'm going to show you here is a little bit of a trick of how to get this image smaller so it will fit the content better. However, I do want you to keep in mind that if you're uploading a really large image, the user, even though we're going to shrink it, the user will still have to download that larger version of the image when they're accessing your page. So it's something to keep in mind that when you're uploading imagery for website content, we always recommend optimizing the images before uploading them. Because again, what I'm going to simply do here, and I selected the image with one click, these little boxes show up in the corners. And what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to drag them, and that allows me to rescale the image. But the source image isn't really being resized. It is just how the editor is shrinking and sort of manipulating the image while it's within this content. The original size of the image still remains. So I can make it very small, but as I mentioned, if somebody's accessing your page, they would still be downloading the original size of the image, and then their browser would just scale it to the format that we've just shrunk it to. And that is how you insert an image. And the next thing that I want to show you is how to insert a YouTube video or video from elsewhere as well. So for example, Vimeo. And what I'm going to do is this is my tried and tested YouTube video that I sort of come back to, which is a cat playing a piano. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the actual URL of the video itself. I'm just going to come back here to my page, and I'm going to go here and click on Insert Edit Media. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just plug my URL right into the source. And by default, the editor is going to give me a dimensions to start off with for the YouTube embed. I'm just going to click on OK. And right there, we have now the YouTube video, which is now embedded on my page. And people will now be able to actually watch that video right from my page without leaving it. So meaning we're keeping the viewer on our site without them sort of, being sidelined over to another destination and not coming back. And again, feel free to try out all of the different features of the editor. The last thing I want to show you here is the last thing, is how to create a link. And there's different sort of links that you can create, but they all basically work the same. So what I'm going to do now is, because I'm creating a link, I will actually get to highlight what I want to turn into the link, because I could just select just a part of it. So I'll just leave this as the link that we'll create. I'm going to click on this little Insert Edit Link icon now, which will bring me to this pop-up. And again, here's where we get a little bit of choice. So I can either link to a page, and what that means is I get to then select another page from my website to link to. So that's an internal link. I can also choose to link it to an uploaded piece of media. So for example, if I've uploaded a PDF, I can then link it to that file. And for example, we've just uploaded a softball image, so here it is. So I could theoretically select that as the destination of the link. I could also make it a URL. So in our case, instead of this upload path, what I could do is I could put in, HTTPS google.ca. So I could just put in an external link, whether it be a partner, a sponsor, wherever you wish to set, to set the destination as, you can definitely do that. But, lastly, the email address. So this would be simply, info@me.com. So whatever the actual email is that you want to throw out there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually select the page because I want to link it as I want to turn this into an internal link. And now what I'm doing is I'm just simply selecting about IDNB as my category, my source category, what I want to link to. And what I want to do is I want to now link this page to the staff directory page within this about category. And as soon as I select that, everything is good. And I hit insert and I am done at that point. Keep in mind also that the editor does come with right-click functionality. So for example, if I right-click on this link, I get a contextual menu here through the editor. So for example, I could edit my link if I wanted to, or I can insert an image if I wanted to, or change the format. So you do have a little bit of functionality with a right-click as well. And while not a feature, a lot of people will use, I do want to show you the last thing. Is the source code. So clicking on this will actually give you the actual markup of the page. Now, you may say, why are you showing me that? That's, technical stuff. I don't want to see that. And while true, this is quite a handy mode if, one, you want to hand off the source code of your page to somebody else. For example, to have somebody inspect it or modify it. And having said that, if somebody does modify it, or for example, if you're copying your page from another source which provided you the HTML with, what you could simply do is paste the HTML into this window, hit OK, and whatever the markup was of that provided content, you would now have it available in the editor itself. And those are the basics of using the editor. Again, we welcome you to use it. If there's ever any questions, feel free to get back to us. But we'll move on now to the final item of creating a page, and that is the link. As an administrator, you have the ability to create a link for the new page. Or you could leave it blank, and the system will generate one for you. So if you want a URL that's very specific, go ahead and provide one. However, if you don't really care about the URL and what it's going to look like, all you want it to do is work, then leave it blank and the system will generate one for you based on the data that you've supplied previously. So at this point, I'm just going to hit submit. And our new page has now been created. So if we go back to the actual site, fingers crossed, if I hit refresh, there it is, Remy Rocks right here. So if we click on that, we can see that all of our content that we've just created is in here, and even our link is in here that now hopefully works as well. So now what we're going to look at, since we've created our page, is how to make this page a subpage of another section. So let's say I created Remy Rocks, but I just realized it doesn't really belong on its own. It should really fit under About. So if I head over to About, I can clearly tell that it's not in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the CMS, and we're going to go over here to the right hand side and click on Edit, which will pre-fill all our data for us. And what I'm going to do now is go into this subpage of field, and what I want to do is I know that I want to link it to the About page, and one, I could scroll here until I find the page that I'm looking for, which is quite handy if you're just a few pages. However, if you've got more than a dozen, you might want to just be able to simply type in and have the field filter all the pages for you until you get a match. In this case, I know that I want to link it to the About page. There's my About page. I simply select that and I save it. Now, if we were to come back here and refresh again, we can see here that Remy Rocks is gone completely out of the very top, but we can now locate it on the left-hand side as the very last item, or it is also located within the drop-down menu. So clicking on that page, once again, gives us all that content, but we can see now this page is within the About section and within that structure of that section itself. Now let's say that we want to move this Remy Rocks all the way to the top because it obviously is the most important page. What we want to do is actually get to those subpages, and you have two methods doing that. You can see here that there's a little bit of a difference where some of these items have folders and some of these items are just a single page. What that means is that the contact page is just a singular page. There's no subpages underneath it. However, About Us does have subpages, so it turns into a folder that's clickable for you. So you can either click this folder on the left-hand side, or you can click on the kebab and you can click on this pages option, which will also tell you how many pages there is. And here we can see that our Remy Rocks page exists right here. And what we want to do is move it all the way to the top. So I simply hover over the page itself, I hold, and then I drag all the way to the top. And now Remy Rocks is at the very top. So if we refresh our page, it is now at the very top. And that is how we go about making a page a subpage of another section. And the last item that we're going to look at today is how to make a page be accessible to a certain group. So once again, we want to edit our page. And this is where we're going to make use of this access group option. If I was to click on this option, I get a whole bunch of groups. And again, these will vary based on your install. You may have one group, you may have 100 groups. It really depends. And you make, there's no real standardization for what they're called because they're really organizationally specific. What I want to do though is I want to set this group as only to be accessible by super administrators. So if I save this page, and if I was to look at it, or if I try to go into the About section, I can no longer see it because I am not logged in. And even if I was logged in, I would need access to the super administrators group before I could see it. Luckily, I am a super administrator, so I can simply go to sign in. And if I just sign in as myself and go back to About, we can see here that Remy Rocks appears once again and is fully accessible. And that ends today's tutorial about how to, use the basic functionalities of the CMS or the page management or the navigation management. Thanks for tuning in.